The wrestling world can survive a bad match. It can survive a shocking betrayal. It can even survive the retirement of a legend. But there is one thing wrestling fans can never prepare for. The moment they realize they will never see that wrestler walk through the curtain again. In 2026, professional wrestling lost men from different generations, different countries, and different eras of the business. Some helped build wrestling before WWE became a global empire. Some changed the way tag team wrestling was performed. Some became stars in WCW, Japan, or the independent scene. And one of them became a WWE Hall of Famer whose influence reached generations of future stars. So tonight we remember 10 wrestlers who left this world in 2026. Not just by remembering how they died, but by remembering why wrestling fans cared about them in the first place. When a wrestler dies, what really remains? The championships? The entrance? The rivalries? The matches? Or the memories fans carry for the rest of their lives? For these 10 men, the answer is different. But every one of them left something behind. They helped shape professional wrestling in ways that today's fans can still see. And sadly, they are now gone. Their entrances are over. Their final bell has already sounded. But their impact on wrestling will continue. This, Rick Link. Before wrestling became dominated by WWE, AEW, and massive television deals, there was the territory system. Wrestlers traveled from city to city. They worked different promoters. They built reputations one arena at a time. Rick Link belonged to that world. He wrestled across North America and became particularly known in the Memphis territory as Man Mountain Link. He shared the ring with names like Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee, and his career stretched across promotions connected to the NWA, Georgia Championship Wrestling, Jim Crockett Promotions, Stampede Wrestling, and more. For fans who remember that generation, wrestlers like Link represented something that is almost impossible to recreate today. A wrestling business built around traveling performers who had to earn the audience's respect every single night. And now that generation is slowly disappearing. Rick Link was born on February 28, 1959. He died on January 14, 2026, at the age of 66, after battling an illness and entering hospice care. 9. Tadao Yasuda. Tadao Yasuda's story was completely different. Before professional wrestling, he competed in sumo, and not at some minor level. He reached the rank of komusubi, one of the highest levels in Japanese sumo. Then he entered professional wrestling and eventually became an IWGP heavyweight champion in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He also stepped into mixed martial arts and defeated Jerome Le Banner. That is an extraordinary athletic journey. Sumo, professional wrestling, MMA, 3 different combat sports, 3 different worlds. For Japanese wrestling fans, Yasuda became part of an era when New Japan was producing some of the most respected heavyweight wrestling in the world. His career proved that a wrestler could come from an entirely different combat background and still make history inside the squared circle. Tadao Yasuda was born on October 9, 1963. He died on February 8, 2026. At the age of 62, he was found dead at his home in Tokyo, and a public cause of death was not released. Dennis Condrey. Some wrestlers become legendary because of world championships. Others become legendary because they completely understand their role. Dennis Condrey understood tag team wrestling. As one of the men behind the Midnight Express, Condrey helped create one of the most influential tag teams in professional wrestling history. The Midnight Express wasn't simply 2 men standing together. It was chemistry, timing, psychology, and the ability to make thousands of fans desperately want to see them lose. Condrey's work helped establish the blueprint that countless tag teams would follow, and his knowledge didn't disappear when his wrestling career slowed down. He later worked as a trainer, passing his experience to another generation. That's how wrestling history survives. One wrestler teaches another. That wrestler teaches someone else. And suddenly, something created decades earlier is still visible inside a modern wrestling ring. Dennis Condrey was born on February 1, 1950. He died on March 20, 2026, at the age of 76, after suffering a serious fall that caused catastrophic injuries. Shepven. DJ Pringle. DJ Pringle may not have been a household name to casual WWE fans, but wrestling isn't built only by household names. It's built by wrestlers who dedicate their lives to the business. DJ Pringle was the son of Paul Bearer, one of the most iconic managers in WWE history. That connection alone placed him close to one of wrestling's most memorable chapters. But DJ Pringle also had his own career. He worked independent promotions, won championship gold, and spent years trying to build his own identity inside the business. For the people who knew him personally, he wasn't simply Paul Bearer's son. He was a wrestler, a father, a husband, and someone who loved professional wrestling. His passing was especially heartbreaking because of how young he was. DJ Pringle was born on January 8, 1987. He died on March 23, 2026, at the age of 39. His obituary confirmed his passing in Pensacola, Florida, while a specific medical cause was not publicly established in the available obituary record. To Flying Fred Curry. Fred Curry belonged to another era, an era when athletic wrestling looked completely different. Known as Flying Fred Curry, he became famous for his speed, drop kicks, and remarkable athletic ability. He was one of the wrestlers who helped prove that professional wrestling didn't have to be slow and methodical. It could be explosive. It could be athletic. It could make an audience jump out of their seats. Curry wrestled major names and became one of the respected stars of the Midwest and beyond. And when modern fans watch today's high-flying wrestlers, it's worth remembering that performers like Curry were pushing athletic wrestling forward decades earlier. His style helped create a path that future generations would continue expanding. Fred Curry was born on June 12, 1941. He died peacefully on April 3, 2026, at the age of 84. His obituary did not publicly identify a specific cause of death. 5. Scott Renwick. Scott Renwick represented the passion that exists outside the biggest wrestling companies. Known as the Butcher, Renwick became an important figure in Scottish professional wrestling and was remembered as part of a generation that helped grow the scene in Scotland. He wasn't built by a massive WWE marketing machine. His legacy came from the wrestling community itself, from the people who watched him perform, from the wrestlers who shared locker rooms with him, and from the fans who supported him. That is one of the most beautiful things about professional wrestling. You don't need to become a world champion to matter. Sometimes your contribution is simply helping keep the business alive. In your own part of the world, Scott Renwick was born in 1985. He died on April 7, 2026, at the age of 41. His family did not publicly disclose a cause of death. Resfocht Van Hammer. For wrestling fans who grew up during the Monday Night War era, the name Van Hammer immediately brings back memories. WCW! The 1990s, big arenas, huge television audiences, and a roster filled with wrestlers trying to become the next major star. Van Hammer became part of that world. He was presented as a heavy metal-inspired character, later became connected to Raven's flock, and shared the WCW landscape with some of the biggest names of the era. He never became the world champion many fans once imagined he could become, but he became part of wrestling history anyway, and sometimes that's what fans remember most. Not every wrestler gets to become the face of a company. Some become part of the memories of an entire generation. Van Hammer was born on November 1, 1959. He died on April 18, 2026, at the age of 66. A specific cause of death was not publicly disclosed. 3. Jordan Saint. Jordan Saint's story is one of the saddest on this list, because unlike many of the wrestlers we're remembering tonight, his career was still beginning. He was only 23 years old. Known as Black Flash Jordan Saint, he had already made an impression on the independent wrestling scene. People around him described his passion for wrestling as extraordinary. He was young, athletic, driven, and according to those who knew him, he had enormous potential. Fans never got to see how far that potential could have taken him. Jordan Saint was born on May 1, 2003. He died on June 12, 2026, at only 23 years old, after another vehicle crossed into his lane and struck his car head-on on Long Island's Bethpage State Parkway. 2. Joe Doering. Joe Doering was built like a classic wrestling powerhouse. Tall, strong, intimidating, and capable of becoming a dominant presence anywhere he wrestled. He became a 2-time Triple Crown heavyweight champion in All Japan Pro Wrestling and a 2-time Impact World Tag Team champion. He also had a connection to WWE through Florida Championship Wrestling, where he wrestled as Drake Brewer. But Joe's most difficult fight wasn't inside a wrestling ring. It was cancer. He was diagnosed with a brain tumor in 2016. He underwent treatment. He returned. And when the disease came back, he kept fighting. For nearly a decade, Joe Doering showed a level of courage that went far beyond professional wrestling. His career was impressive. His fight was even more powerful. Joe Doering was born on April 16, 1982. He died on June 26, 2026, at the age of 44 after a long battle with brain cancer. The one, Dory Funk Jr. And then we come to Dory Funk Jr., a name that doesn't simply belong in wrestling history. A name that helped define it. Dory Funk Jr. was a former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, a WWE Hall of Famer, a member of the legendary Funk family, and a wrestler whose career lasted for more than 6 decades. But his greatest legacy may not have been the championship he held. It may have been the wrestlers he taught. Through his training schools, Dory Funk Jr. helped shape future stars including Kurt Angle, Edge, Christian, the Hardy Boys, Mark Henry, and Mickie James. Think about that. A wrestler from one generation helping create the stars of another. That is how wrestling history survives. Dory didn't just leave behind matches. He left behind knowledge. He left behind students. He left behind a wrestling philosophy that would continue long after his final match. Dory Funk Jr. was born on February 3, 1941. He died on August 4, 2026 at the age of 85 while under hospice care at his home in Ocala, Florida. 10 wrestlers, 10 different stories, 10 different legacies. But every one of them gave something to professional wrestling. Some changed the way matches were performed. Some helped build wrestling territories. Some became part of WWE, WCW, Japan, or the independent scene. And some inspired wrestlers who would become legends themselves. Now they are gone. Fans will never see them make another entrance. Never watch them compete again. Never hear that crowd reaction one more time. But professional wrestling has a long memory. Their matches remain. Their stories remain. And their influence remains. Which wrestler's death made you the saddest? Tell me in the comments.